Alright, Al fam, let's do a quick market update. Before we begin, I do want to say that nothing in this video is financial advice. Everything is for educational purposes only. This is just my own analysis on the market. Also, if you're new to this channel, if you can please like, comment, and subscribe. We really do appreciate all of the support, guys. So, let's get into this market. We talked about this yesterday, guys. I said, don't think there's not going to be a perplexity for us to need to come back down and do a bullish retest of this 50. My general bias is I think we're going to continue to go up, but it's not going to be in a straight line. I think it'll be a multi-month move, and what's going to happen is we're going to get these breakouts in these retracement and cool out zones. The reason why these are important, guys, are for a couple of things. One, to retest major areas of prior resistance, let them turn into future support. Just like you can see, we literally, even though at one point we did come just a teeny bit lower than this 50, this general area held as support, and that's our bounce zone. All right. So why did this happen? Why did we get all of a sudden a random pullback at, on a Sunday night? Futures opened up last night, guys, very, very bearishly. All right. And we can see it right here. Actually, let me kind of come into the 5-minute. You can see it. It's starting to bounce now, just like the rest of the market, but you can see what happened. They opened up very weak. Why? The EU, Trump, tariffs, and this whole Greenland situation. That's what's causing it right now. I think it's going to be something that blows by very fast. We've seen the tariff playbook for a year now. Well, this is what Trump does. Comes out very aggressive. He makes the announcement on a weekend. Typically Friday, Saturday, after the stock market closes. Why? Because he wants to allow the market to get a chance to absorb this information without being able to panic, react, and sell. By the time the market opens up, because today is a holiday for Martin Luther King Day, by the time the market opens up, watch what will happen. There will be talks. The EU and the US will, all of a sudden, there will be posts from both sides saying, we are going to be meeting next week to have trade talks. This will make the market react positively. It will start to move back up. Regardless, guys, it was going to go up anyways. So if you look at these moves and you see this type of stuff happening, what you can guarantee is this, all right? Not only will this blow by pretty quick, all right? And this is just an excuse for market makers to liquidate longs. Guys, we talk about this all the time. 50% of all these moves will be retraced. If this is 10% move from this local low up, 10% is going to be retraced. Or, I'm sorry, at least 5% of it will be retraced. This actually was a little bit more than what I would have even expected. It was right at 6%, but right in line. And if you go and you actually look at it like this, because this was just a wick down, and you go from right here, look, guys, right at 5%. I mean, this is literally their playbook, guys. 50%, and then you can go on smaller time frames and look at this too. 50%, generally speaking, of all major moves will be retraced. So if it moves up 5%, 2.5% is almost guaranteed to be retraced. Why? A couple reasons. So if you look over here, guys, and you kind of look into this, we had a couple of things going on right here. One, there was a fair value gap on the 4-hour that we got to fill in. Look where we filled it in perfectly, guys. Not only did we get to fill that one in, all right? If you look at the RSIs on the larger time frames, guys, we've been talking about this for a little while. These things start to get way overextended, and they're going to need a chance to cool down. What this allows the market to do is to cool down for a couple of days, and today will end red. And then what we could expect is, as this thing comes down, probably is going to bounce off or near the 50 line and then start going back up on its next uptrend. This time, and just give you guys an example of what I mean by this, if you actually look at the RSI, you can see where it bounced off the 50 line last time, and then it resulted in this move right here, which was this 4-day pump that pushed us up to basically like the $97,000 level. All right, you can see it. This is what I'm talking about. So as this thing comes down, it's going to do it again. And then this thing's come down. It's bounced off of the 50 right there, and now it's going to get a general move back up. All right, so something else that I like to do when I see stuff like this happen is I will also take out my fib retracement tool, because then I want to look for some key areas to see where we're bouncing. Is there anything bouncing on the fib? Yes, we are. Here we go, right here, guys. You can see it. Let me move this over. What fib line did we find support on last night? The 618. So this is actually part of my trading technique too, guys. For pullbacks, I'll be actually just for the community only. I have my entire, I haven't even announced this yet, I have my entire trading strategy for day trading using my specific conditions and strategy completely put together in a easy to follow guide, and I'll be releasing it for the guys in the community. But if you guys see this, guys, this is just a way to look at levels, and then this will allow you to look at them, and then as levels come down and they retest it and they touch it, looking at the reaction. We bounce from the 618, then we should continue to move up, guys. You know what I mean? We've come down actually a little bit lower. Typically, the 382, which is the golden pocket, is usually where you can see where we found support right here. You can see how we came through. We rejected off the 236. These fib levels really have a lot of significance, guys. A lot of traders, institutions, people, they use these fib levels as general guides for support and resistance zones. It's very smart to utilize these, especially when you're looking at retracements and you've made a local high and you're kind of chopping sideways. Throw a fib on there, look at the levels, and it's going to give you an idea of some places that will be potential entry points or touch points, utilizing also the 50% rule. So if you use the 50% rule along with the fib, it gives you a pretty good guide. So if you know that this is, 10% move, and we have to retrace at least 5%, look at this. It's literally there, guys. And then you can say, okay, well, the 50% is right around the 618. Let me look at the reaction at that zone. If we start to bounce, then I'll get an entry. And this is a way that you guys can be patient and use the market in order to gain good entries on things that are in confirmed uptrends instead of top blasting green candles, guys, because that's what happens. People lose interest when red days come. Why? This is just the best day to buy. Like, this is when you're supposed to be entering the market. But people do the exact opposite, and that's what we really try to break people of. So you got basically three confluences here, guys. We're at a fib level. We filled in a fair value gap. We've hit the 50% zone. And on top of that, bullish retest of the 50. And we got to fill in the daily fair value gap. We had a massive fair value gap right here as well. And we filled that in. So basically four confluences at this point. This is the kind of stuff that you look for to give yourself a bias on which direction you think things are going to go, if we're going to continue to bounce, if we think we're going to come down. And I'm also not going to say this too, guys. We are not 100% guaranteed just to start going up from this zone, even though we've come down and retraced to 50%. I've been in this market for a long time. These guys have a perplexity of doing some things that are very dirty. And if they want to wick us back down to like this $80,000 zone and actually complete this spring like Marty Party's been saying that we're going to do, totally in the realm of possibilities. All right. Nothing is 100% guaranteed. Everything in this market is a set of probabilities that we deal with based upon circumstances and the results of these same conditions and what happened prior. All right. This is why I use charting patterns, price action, and all these different indicators and tools to be able to give yourself an idea of not only the direction that we're going to go, but also if we're going to continue going in that direction, if we're going to stop going there, if we're going to do a reversal. This is why you guys have to study and understand and incorporate technical analysis as a tool in your tool belt when you approach this market. You can't just approach it from one way. I've seen technical analysis go out the window with crypto. Straight up go out the window. Things that were supposed to play out and work out because they have such a high probability of playing out, go the exact opposite direction with crypto because of macro. A macro event can come out of nowhere, regardless of what's going on. I've seen it happen a million times and completely destroy it. All right? And it takes the technical analysis and throws it out the window. You have to kind of incorporate and combine all three of these things together in order to really give yourself an edge on the market. So with that being said, guys, we know that NASDAQ's had a pretty bearish day. Honestly, to me, this just looks like a retest of the bottom of this range right here on this bull flag. You can see pretty much, this is futures, come back down, retest the 50-day. We won't have, the U.S. stock market won't be open today because of Martin Luther King Day, but by that time, hopefully, there's actually some type of resolution being, drafted. And then at this point, then we'll probably see the market, rallying back up to the upside. But with that being said, we got to watch these things very closely. Now, looking at Ethereum versus Bitcoin, still above the 50-day. Bitcoin dominance has been making a little bit of a move back up. It's right at the 50 line on the weekly. I think we will, even if this thing starts to kind of go over this week, I think by the end of this week, they will have some type of solution for these tariffs, and then this thing will probably come back down, and it'll just be a wick above. Something similar to like what this week was and how this week, dipped over. I don't think we'll have anything like this, but I think the worst of it is generally over. I think the market's pretty much priced this event in at this point, and at this point, it's just kind of chopping sideways and reacting, waiting for some more news to get an idea. Again, price makes narrative. When price dumped last night, guys, everybody was scrambling to try to figure, even myself, trying to scramble to figure out what's causing the move in the pullback to actually occur. So USDT dominance is right at the zone that we don't want it to go above. This actually looks pretty bullish to me, guys. This thing has come up and done a bearish retest. As long as this holds and we don't continue to go up above, and again, we might even see this expand a little bit today, but by the end of the day, we want to close below that 6.017% line, guys. Like, we really don't want to cross the 6% line. That's kind of like, if we do, we honestly, to be honest, we really just don't want to cross back above this, because once we cross back above that line, if we were to get back above it, it would look like we've been just basically did a deviation underneath the 50, and now we're back in a confirmed uptrend on USDT dominance, and we do not want that, all right? Especially if our bias is we think we're going into a multi-month move. We want USDT dominance to be going the opposite direction. Now, there's some interesting setups on projects I want to show you guys. And I'm going to go through a few of these that I think might be interesting opportunities for guys to accumulate based upon the Wyckoff. All right, so this is Ondo, and I'm a pretty bullish on Ondo. I'm very bullish on RWA. I think it's got a real use case in crypto. I think it's one of the better use cases in crypto. Everything is going on chain, everything, and I'm going to be making an RWA video, breaking down RWA, my bias in RWA, the projects that I like, and the different things about it. But the number one project I think I'm bullish on for RWA currently is Ondo. All right. I've been a holder of Ondos since Ondo first launched a couple of years ago. I think it was early 24, or maybe it was early 25. Yeah, early 24. So it's been around for a couple of years now. If you look at this chart's pretty interesting looking, guys. All right. And if you look at this and the characteristics of what we look for entry points, Ondo has actually come lower than I would have ever expected it to. I expected it at one point to hold this line right here because it had held it for so long. What has happened is you can kind of look at this thing as a massive trading zone, but when it broke below that line, that's when I start to look for the spring, all right, in the accumulation zone. So we know we've been in a downtrend on Ondo, all right? What we've been trying to wait for is the conversion from the downtrend, accumulation, uptrend, all right? And I think we're getting in the process of that now. I think Ondo is an accumulation zone, all right? I think that this is its local high. You can see this was support, turned into resistance. This is its bottom. And you can see that out of this trading range, Ondo has done what? It has deviated outside, all right? It has done what we call a spring. So it is right here. So it's done its downtrend. It started bouncing, started kind of chopping sideways. We had a macro event sweep us down, create the spring. Now, this is where you want to load up. This is your best entry point for ROI in crypto, period. You're never going to get a better entry than this. If you can nail this spring on an accumulation for a Wyckoff right before an uptrend, especially a bull run, especially with the macro events and the different things that are happening this year, your ROI is usually going to be the best. You're literally going to be in profit the entire time because even on pullbacks, you had the lowest level entry possible. All right? It's literally the best entry. With that, and if you don't catch it today, then what we would expect Ondo to do is come back up, come back in. Like once it does, it's going to have to do a retest and then start its uptrend. This will give a person a couple of different interesting opportunities. All right? So we can expect, once this thing starts to recover, it comes back up, and I would even expect maybe another, possible rejection off that 50 as this thing maybe starts curling up and then comes back down, does a retest. And every time, I would call it the buy box. Every time a project comes into my buy box, I DCA in if I have the opportunity. I'm real big about limit orders. The guys in the community know this. I will put limit orders on projects at ridiculous places that you don't even think will touch. And you'll be surprised at sometimes how you get these wicks down that will fill your order. So with that, Ondo looks like it's doing its spring, and this looks pretty interesting now. Equally, you have to be patient. I like to wait for the retest. I don't like to try to time the spring because these springs can actually occur a little bit deeper and a little bit longer than you want. So you don't want to immediately assume just because we have this quick deviation out that we're 100% going, and completing this spring, because then the next thing that could happen is you actually start going up and then this thing actually wants to go just a little bit lower the next time and then complete the spring. So that retest is very essential to me. I like to see that retest, come back down, be patient, set limit orders. Let's say, you want to buy at 34, 35 cent Ondo, you set limit orders, and when it comes in to do that retest, you get it filled, and now pretty much the rest of the move, you're going to be in profit. That's literally the best ROI. It's also a really good opportunity for guys that are in the red on a position. Let's say you bought Ondo at 65 cents, and now you're like 50% down on it. Buy more of it at 34 cents, and you're going to effectively lower your average. If you can double your tokens, you're going to bring your average down, 10 cents to 45 cents now, or 50 cents or whatever. Now, when the market turns back around, you're going to be in profit quicker. These are ways that you can strategize. Even if you're in a losing position, it's okay if you're in a blue chip asset that you believe in and you have the ability to lower those averages. People always, I hear this, I just need to sit on my hands because I'm, down right now. That's not a strategy. Sitting on your hands is not a strategy, guys. All right. And if you don't have capital to be able to effectively enter more money into the market to lower those averages, then there's probably a chance you don't need to be in the market right now. You probably need to take a step back, focus on generating an income, focus on that first. And then once you get a bucket of money, then look at investing. Personally speaking, you want to be an intelligent investor. Investors, specifically people that do it for like retirement purposes and things like that, they usually DCA like every week into their retirement account. It usually like automatically gets drafted out of their paycheck or whatever. All right. Everybody should be doing that in some form or fashion. All right. With that being said, guys, I know that a lot of people don't like seeing this red, and I want to show you guys this too. This is total market cap of the entire crypto industry. We are finding support on the 50 right now. This looks pretty good. I don't want to see us lose this level, all right? I would prefer to start the uptrend now, and I am still a big believer, and I think that's going to happen. I also don't always go 100% with these things because, things can happen. There could be for instance, there could be some major attack, or let's say, just a few days ago, they were talking about Iran being bombed by America. Let's say for some reason Iran gets bombed in the next couple of days, and then boom, we get that spring because I literally will see a wick go down and then suck it right back up, and it'll sweep that liquidity. And when that happens, it could create that spring as well. I don't think that's going to happen. I hope that doesn't happen. Obviously, we can't go on 100% what we think, or, we deal with probabilities over here, guys. And probability standpoint for me is these tariffs, we've been dealing with them for a year. They're very short-term bearish. We end up blowing past them within a few days. As long as it's not like actual war. I understand the escalation of the Greenland issue and people kind of being, a little bit worried about it. That fear, uncertainty, and doubt is a real thing. And people de-risk in those environments. So once we get a little bit of certainty back into the market, I think we will see that event get repriced in, and then we'll start, going back up. Over the next day or two. We've also had a few days, and you can kind of notice this, guys. Just like when we go green for a few days, we're like up for green like 4, 5, 6, 7 days in a row. You can expect a few days pullback. Same thing goes when we pull back. We've been pulling back for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days now, guys. That's a pretty decent amount of pulling back. I'm expecting probably us to start moving up from this general standpoint. Bullish retest. Things look pretty good right now. Confirmed uptrend, a little retest, cool off some of these oscillators, especially on some of these lower time frames, guys. It really got to reset some of these things. Like some of them reset like all the way down, and I'll show you some examples of that. Like if you look at Bitcoin and you look at its RSI on the 4 hour, this thing came all the way down to 33, which is kind of crazy. You can see things like on Athena, it came down to 22. Like Sui came down to 19. These things are extremely, extremely, extremely oversold on the lower time frames, guys, and you can see it. All right. So these are also times where we look for momentum shifts. This is something else that I like to do on Bitcoin to see if we're going to actually start to move in the next direction. Is I will go on the smaller time frames and I'll start looking for divergences, for bullish divergences back to the upside. And what a bullish divergence is, guys, let me see if I can find one. It's essentially when the market is making lower lows, but then the RSI starts making higher lows. And I don't see one right now, which is actually kind of surprising. Let's see if we go over here. See here. I can show you an example of a bearish divergence, and it's the same thing, but it's bullish. And this is a bearish divergence, and I called this in the community a few days ago and said this looks like a local top. This looks like a place that Bitcoin will cool down at, and I called it because you can see that shift in momentum. We failed to make a higher high there when the Bitcoin made a higher high, and it just shows that momentum is slowing and that buyers are getting exhausted and sellers are stepping in, and then that's what the result of this is. Also, too, if I look at this from like a structural standpoint, guys, I think that structurally nothing looks that bad. We had these couple of wicks come down on the 4 hour, but other than that, guys, I think in a week from now, nobody ever remember it. It'd just be a way for them to sweep liquidity, guys. Always remember that. These market makers and exchanges are always going to sweep liquidity. That's what they do. On another note, if this is your first time ever seeing one of these videos or finding my content on YouTube, my name is Coach JM. I've been a crypto expert for the past 5 years. I'm also an expert inside of Capital Club, where I host the weekly Crypto Talk workshops. I'm also the founder of Alpha Syndicate. I'm a published author, and I created Alpha Syndicate to help people like you understand this stuff at a deep level. How to incorporate and understand the macro, the fundamentals, the technical analysis, and the way that we're able to basically divide the signal from the noise. And that's what we really want to do, guys. We want to be focused right now for 2026. And if you're trying to find a group of people that you can work with, get coached by, mentored, if you want a place that you can network with other entrepreneurs, a place that you can actually understand and learn this stuff at a deep level, click the link below. We'll see you inside.